January 15, 1967. 2:47 p.m., Binh Duong Province, South Vietnam. Specialist 4th Class David Martinez crouches in elephant grass 2 feet tall, PRC-25 radio strapped to his back, 23 years old. From El Paso, Texas, radio telephone operator for Bravo Company, 2nd Battalion, 27th Infantry Regiment, 25th Infantry Division. The radio weighs 23.5 pounds with battery, another 6 pounds for the spare battery clipped to his web gear. The antenna, 10-foot long-range version today, waves above the grass like a flag saying, "Shoot me first." Martinez knows exactly what that antenna means. RTOs die first, always have. The Viet Cong learn fast in this war. Kill the radio, isolate the unit, destroy them piecemeal. His handset crackles. Bravo 6, this is Bravo 26. We have movement tree line 200 meters north. Estimate platoon strength. The tree line erupts. AK-47s on full automatic, RPD machine gun hammering. Mortars thumping from somewhere behind the trees, 60 km walking toward the American position. Lieutenant Morrison drops beside Martinez. Dirt sprays from incoming rounds. "Get me air support now!" Martinez keys the handset with his left hand, pulls his map with his right. Fingers steady, not from courage, from training. He's done this before. Covey 2-3, this is Bravo 6, troops in contact, immediate air request. 400 meters away, hidden in a spider hole at the tree line's edge, Nguyen Van Thieu watches the Americans scramble for cover. He's 28 years old, former rice farmer from Tay Ninh Province, Viet Cong squad leader. 4 years fighting Americans and ARVN forces. He sees what all VC fighters see. Americans with their massive radios, their obvious antennas waving above cover, their complete dependence on technology. Clumsy, vulnerable, predictable. The Americans think their radios will save them. Thieu smiles, gives his men the signal. Concentrate fire on the radio operator, the one with the antenna. What Thieu doesn't know, what he can't possibly know, is that 6,000 feet above him, Captain James Wilson has already marked his position on a map and keyed his UHF radio. 2 F-100 Super Sabres are 4 minutes out. The graveyard is coming. Understanding why Viet Cong fighters underestimated American air support requires understanding the system they faced. It starts on the ground. Every infantry company has an RTO, radio telephone operator, carrying the AN-PRC-25. The troops call it the Prick 25, introduced to Vietnam in 1965 as replacement for Korean War-era equipment. Revolutionary for its time, transistorized, solid-state circuitry, water-resistant housing, simple to operate. The specs tell part of the story. VHF-FM transceiver. 920 channels across 2 frequency bands, 30 to 52.95 MHz and 53 to 75.95 MHz, 2 watts output power, effective range, 3 to 5 miles in jungle terrain, longer in open country. The squelch feature, muting background noise when strong signals aren't detected, makes tuning simple even under fire. The radio comes in 2 metal cans strapped together, lower can battery pack. Upper can transceiver, weight with battery 23.5 pounds. 2 antennas available. 3-foot standard for most missions, 10-foot long range carried in canvas bag for extended operations. Battery life varies by usage. 2 to 3 hours of heavy transmission. Full day of casual operation. Up to 4 days if used sparingly with radio powered off between transmissions. General Crichton Abrams, commanding U.S. Military Assistance Command Vietnam, calls the PRC-25 the single most important tactical field item in Vietnam. He's not exaggerating. The RTO is carefully selected from each platoon. Must remain calm under fire. Must read maps accurately. Must know radio procedure cold. Carries M18 smoke grenades for marking positions. Carries extra ammunition for the M60 machine gun. Often serves as de facto executive officer when the lieutenant gets hit. But the radio makes the RTO a target. The antenna marks him. The Viet Cong and North Vietnamese army learn this quickly. Put RPD machine gun fire on the antenna. Kill the radio operator. The unit goes blind and deaf, cannot call artillery, cannot coordinate with other units, cannot call for air support. Over 500 RTOs die in Vietnam. The antenna kills them. But the radio is just the first link in the chain. Above the ground troops, forward air controllers orbit in small propeller aircraft. Initially Cessna 01 bird dogs, two-seat observation planes, slow, unarmed, unarmored, maximum speed, 115 miles per hour. Ceiling, 18,500 feet. The bird dog is easy to maintain, maneuverable, can operate from primitive airstrips, but it has limitations. Size restricts payload and fuel capacity. Carries 3 separate radio systems but can only monitor one channel at a time. FM radio for ground forces, UHF radio for strike aircraft, VHF radio for tactical air control parties. Later aircraft improved the platform. The O-2 Skymaster in 1966. Faster twin-engine push-pull configuration, 4 hard points for ordnance, 7-hour loiter time. The OV-10 Bronco in 1968, purpose-built FAC aircraft with turboprop engines, armored cockpit, 8 secure radios, mounted machine guns. The FAC is the critical link. He maintains radio contact with ground troops via FM, receives target coordinates, visually identifies the target, crucial in jungle where enemies and civilians look identical, marks the target with white phosphorus rockets. Then contacts strike aircraft on UHF and directs the attack. The system's effectiveness depends entirely on response time. Marine Corps doctrine, developed from World War II amphibious operations, requires air support within 5 to 10 minutes of request. Marine aircraft orbit on air alert, cab ranks of fighter bombers waiting overhead for strike requests. The Marines view their aviation as flying artillery supporting lightly armed ground formations. Air Force doctrine differs. Developed in World War II for supporting heavily armed Army divisions with organic artillery. Assumes ground forces use their own guns for immediate threats. Reserve air power for deeper targets. Strike aircraft scramble from ground bases rather than orbiting overhead. Takes longer, 15, 20, 30 minutes sometimes. But by 1967, the distinction blurs. Air Force procedures streamline. Pre-positioned aircraft. Better coordination. Faster approval chains. The tactical air control system becomes efficient. When it works, and increasingly it works, the response time is devastating. Infantry unit makes contact with enemy. RTO calls for air support, FAC overhead within minutes. Marks target with white phosphorus smoke rockets. Strike aircraft arrive, F-100 Super Sabres, A-1 Sky Raiders, F-4 Phantoms. From first contact to bombs on target, 5 to 15 minutes. To American troops pinned down by enemy fire, it's deliverance. Death from above arriving exactly when needed. To the Viet Cong, it should be terrifying. But in 1966 and early 1967, many VC commanders don't yet grasp how fast Americans can bring air power to bear. They're about to learn. September 1966. Somewhere in War Zone C, 40 kilometers north of Saigon. Senior Colonel Nguyen Thanh Tam addresses his battalion commanders in a tunnel complex 20 feet underground. He's 43 years old. Fought the French at Dien Bien Phu in 1954. Veteran of countless jungle ambushes. Commander of the 271st Regiment, 9th Viet Cong Division. The Americans have been in country in force for 18 months. Tam's men have studied their patterns, learned their habits, identified their weaknesses. The Americans are addicted to their radios, Tam tells his officers. Lamplight flickers on tunnel walls. They cannot function without constant communication. Every movement, every decision must be reported, approved, coordinated through their machines. This is simultaneously strength and fatal weakness. The radios give Americans unprecedented coordination. Units separated by kilometers operate as single entities. Artillery fires within minutes of request. Helicopters arrive on call. Everything synchronized, networked, connected. But the radios also make Americans predictable, vulnerable, dependent. TAM's intelligence section has captured several PRC-25 radios, stripped them down, studied their capabilities. The radios are sophisticated, far superior to the Chinese HF and VHF equipment the VC use. Solid-state electronics, multiple channels, good range. But they have exploitable characteristics. The antenna advertises the operator's position. Americans know this. Try to camouflage antennas, bend them low, use shorter 3-foot versions when possible. But in combat needing maximum range, they extend the 10-foot antenna, visible from hundreds of meters away. Always target the radio operator first, TAM instructs. Kill him, you blind the unit. They cannot call artillery, cannot coordinate movements, cannot call their air support. The Americans' dependence on technology makes them weak in ways they don't recognize, won't move without radio contact, won't attack without air support coordination, won't fight at night when aircraft can't see targets. The Viet Cong, by contrast, move silently through jungle, communicate with runners, hand signals, prearranged plans, fight at night when American technology fails, fight close, grab them by the belt, as commanders say. Too close for American artillery or air support without hitting friendly forces. TAM has won battles where VC units overran American positions before defenders could call for help. Has seen radio operators shot in opening volleys, their units fragmenting without communication, falling apart without coordination. The radios are the American center of gravity. Destroy that center, you destroy the unit. But TAM's intelligence officers have discovered something even more valuable. American radio communications are completely unsecure. No encryption, no codes, just voice traffic transmitted in clear. The VC and NVA operate radio intercept units, monitor American frequencies, track troop movements, anticipate operations before they begin. At the Ia Drong Valley Battle in November 1965, North Vietnamese radio operators monitored over 28,000 American radio transmissions during the 3-day fight, learned landing zone locations, learned helicopter schedules, learned unit strengths and dispositions. The Americans remain ignorant that enemies listen to every transmission. They use proper radio procedure, call signs, authentication protocols. But they speak English, apparently assuming Vietnamese enemies cannot understand. Massive miscalculation. Many NVA and VC signal officers speak fluent English, studied it for years, trained specifically for signals intelligence. They monitor American command frequencies and extract intelligence Americans never imagine enemies possess. During one operation near the Cambodian border in January 1968, VC radio operators monitored American battalion frequencies. When American troops searched for an Australian patrol reportedly ahead of them, VC responded with fake transmissions claiming to be Australian forces, attempted to lure Americans into prepared ambush using their own communication systems against them. The deception worked until American commanders grew suspicious and verified with higher headquarters. No Australian units operated in that sector. The Americans' technological sophistication breeds overconfidence. They assume enemies are unsophisticated, primitive, incapable of understanding or exploiting American communications. They underestimate their enemy. But the VC also underestimates something critical about the Americans. They see vulnerabilities, obvious antennas, unsecure communications, dependence on technology. What many haven't experienced yet is how fast those radios summon death from the sky. When an RTO calls for air support, response time measures in single-digit minutes. In the jungle, Minutes mean everything. January 15th, 1967. 2:49 p.m. Binh Duong Province. Martinez with the PRC-25. Lieutenant Morrison shouts over sustained gunfire, "Grid coordinates now!" Martinez already has the map out, hands steady despite bullets snapping through elephant grass inches above his head. The mortar rounds walk closer. Impact. Pause. Impact. Pause. Walking the barrage toward American positions. He reads coordinates into the handset. Covey 23 target grid. Bravo Sierra 734658. Enemy in tree line, infantry in the open, danger close. We need immediate air. 6,000 feet overhead, Captain James Wilson banks his 01 Bird Dog hard right. Sees mortar smoke rising from jungle. Sees muzzle flashes in tree line. Dozens of them, sustained fire. This isn't harassment, this is prepared ambush. Company strength at minimum. Wilson keys UHF radio. Sabre flight, Covey 23, immediate close air support, troops in contact, marking target now. He pushes stick forward. The Bird Dog's engine whines. Cessna wasn't designed for combat maneuvers. The little aircraft drops toward tree line at 130 miles per hour. Ground fire snaps past. Small arms, AKs and RPDs. Wilson ignores it. The Bird Dog is fragile but small, hard to hit. His job is marking the target. He fires 2 white phosphorus rockets from underwing launchers. They streak into tree line, trailing white smoke. Impact. Thick white phosphorus smoke billows up. Distinctive, impossible to miss. Sabre flight. Target marked with Willie Pete. Enemy positions in tree line 100 meters north of friendly forces. Danger close. You are cleared hot. Sabre lead copies. I have the smoke. 30 seconds out. 30 seconds. Elapsed time from Martinez's call to aircraft overhead. 4 minutes, 40 seconds. On the ground, Thieu watches the small American spotter plane. So fragile, so slow, practically begging to be shot down. His men fire at it, full magazines, tracer rounds arcing upward. But the range is too far for accurate fire with iron sights. He's seen these aircraft before. They mark targets for artillery. But artillery takes time. Coordinates pass through fire direction centers. Guns oriented, first ranging shots, corrections, fire for effect. 10, 15, 20 minutes minimum. And American jets, when they arrive at all, usually come long after VC forces withdraw. The Americans are powerful but ponderous, bureaucratic, slow to react. Standard VC doctrine exploits this. Strike fast, inflict maximum casualties, withdraw before American firepower responds. The Americans have strength. The VC have speed. Hit them and disappear into jungle before their machine can grind into action. Thieu signals his platoon leaders. 30 more seconds of firing, then break contact. Withdraw to tunnel complex 2 kilometers east. Americans will call artillery, maybe jets. By the time fire arrives, VC will be gone. Back underground, disappeared. It's worked dozens of times. 30 more seconds of firing, then withdrawal. Then Thieu hears something that changes every calculation. The sound starts low. A rumble, building, growing exponentially louder. Jets, already here. Captain Richard Sabre Lead Thompson drops his F-100 Super Sabre through 8,000 feet at 450 knots. His wingman, Lieutenant Carl Hayes, Sabre 2, follows in trail formation. Thompson sees white smoke immediately, sees friendlies, small figures in elephant grass, 300 meters south of tree line, sees tree line itself. The target. This is what F-100s do. Close air support. The Hun was designed for it. Nuclear strike capability, yes, but the bread and butter is supporting ground troops. 6 missions already today. This is number 7. Sabre 2, I'm in hot napalm north to south run. Thompson arms napalm canisters. 2 BLU-27B tanks, 110 gallons of jellied gasoline each. The F-100 screams down toward tree line. 450 knots dropping to 400, 350, maintaining energy for pull-up. The target expands in gunsight. Trees, smoke, muzzle flashes still visible. Release at 500 feet. Napalm canisters tumble free. Thompson pulls hard, 6 Gs pressing him into seat. Vision narrowing, aircraft groaning. The Super Sabre claws for altitude. Behind him, the tree line ceases to exist. The napalm spreads across 200 meters of jungle. Jellied gasoline adheres to everything it touches. Temperature at impact center, 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. Everything in the kill zone, vegetation, fighting positions, equipment, human beings, burns. The smoke column rises black and orange. The sound is a roar followed by sustained crackling. Heat radiates outward. Martinez feels it 300 meters away, physical pressure on exposed skin. Sabre 2 in hot guns. Hayes follows his leader, but instead of napalm, he brings M39 20mm cannons. 4 of them mounted in nose. Combined rate of fire 1/500 rounds per minute. Each round, high explosive incendiary. They don't just penetrate, they explode on impact. Hayes walks cannon fire across tree line, east to west, perpendicular to Thompson's napalm strike. 30-second burst. The 20mm rounds shred everything. Trees explode, earth fountains upward. Prepared positions disintegrate. The firing from VC positions stops completely. Not reduced, not suppressed, stopped. Not a single muzzle flash remains. Not a single mortar round launches. Total silence except for burning jungle. Wilson circles overhead in bird dog. Keys his radio. Bravo 6, Covey 2-3, target destroyed, no further enemy fire observed, you are clear to advance. He marks combat report on kneeboard. 2 F-100s, 4 passes total. Napalm and 20mm cannons, target destroyed. BDA battle damage assessment to follow when ground troops assess. Elapsed time from first contact to target suppression, 6 minutes, 30 seconds. On the ground, Martinez stares at smoking tree line. The jungle burns with orange flame and black smoke. The smell drifts across the field, petroleum mixed with something sweet and sickly and unmistakably organic. Lieutenant Morrison keys his company net. All Bravo elements advance to tree line, check for survivors, and collect weapons. The platoons move forward, weapons ready, expecting resistance. But there's nothing left to fight. The tree line is devastated. Shattered trees, cratered earth, bodies, some burned beyond recognition, some torn apart by 20mm explosive rounds. Martinez counts 14 dead VC fighters in first 50 meters. Squad leaders estimate 30 total across entire ambush position. Weapons scattered everywhere. AK-47s, RPD machine guns, RPG launchers, 60mm mortar tubes, ammunition crates. The VC had occupied prepared positions, professional work. Dugouts reinforced with logs, spider holes with overhead cover, camouflaged bunkers. Everything textbook, everything according to doctrine. But the positions weren't designed to survive napalm and 20mm cannons delivered from aircraft traveling 400 miles per hour. Nothing survives that. One infantry sergeant walks up to Martinez, studies the devastated tree line. 4 minutes from your call to bombs on target. Martinez nods. Covey was already overhead. Sabre flight was already in the area. Those poor bastards, the sergeant says, looking at the bodies. They thought they were ambushing us. Probably thought they had 10-15 minutes before air arrived. Had no idea jets would get here in 4 minutes. Martinez doesn't respond, just keys his handset. Bravo 6 to Covey 2-3, thanks for the save. Wilson's voice crackles back. Covey 2-3 copies. We've got you covered. We're always overhead. The pattern repeats across South Vietnam throughout 1967 and 1968. Viet Cong units ambush American patrols. Pin them down with superior numbers in prepared positions. Move to overrun positions and inflict maximum casualties. Then spotter planes arrive, mark targets with white phosphorus. Strike aircraft follow within minutes. The speed shocks VC commanders who planned operations assuming historical timelines. Traditional warfare operates on measured rhythms. Artillery coordinates through multiple echelons. Forward observers to fire direction centers to gun batteries. Takes minutes minimum. Reinforcements move through jungle terrain. Takes hours. Air support historically requires pre-planning, positioned aircraft, lengthy approval chains. But American close air support in Vietnam operates at compressed speeds that negate traditional tactical calculations. Statistics from 1968, compiled from after-action reports, show the transformation. Average response time for immediate air requests to ARVN units with Air Force liaison officers embedded, 17.6 minutes from request to aircraft overhead. For U.S. Army units in heavy contact, 12 to 15 minutes average. For U.S. Marine units with dedicated Marine air support, 5 to 10 minutes routinely. Sometimes faster. The Air Force achieves response times matching Marine standards. By 1968, pre-positioned aircraft orbit near likely contact areas. Alert procedures streamline, approval authorities delegate to lowest effective level. The tactical air control system functions efficiently. One battalion commander in a 101st Airborne Division implements standing policy. Any unit in heavy contact automatically receives priority for air support. No approval needed. Call FAC. Get strike aircraft. The policy spreads to other units. Results speak clearly. February through August 1968, 6 months spanning Tet Offensive and follow-on operations, Air Force and Marine aircraft fly over 300,000 close air support sorties in South Vietnam. That's approximately 1,600 sorties daily. Sustained. For 6 months. Tonnage of ordnance dropped exceeds any comparable 6-month period in World War II European theater. The weight of explosives delivered per day, measured in thousands of tons, transforms tactical battlefield geometry. For Viet Cong fighters in prepared ambush positions, the lesson arrives with brutal clarity. You have perhaps 5 to 10 minutes maximum to achieve objectives and withdraw. After that, sky becomes deadly. FACs arrive, jets follow, napalm bombs, rockets, cannons rain down. Many VC units never adjust doctrine. Continue planning ambushes assuming air support is distant, slow, unlikely to arrive during brief engagement windows. They learn otherwise through direct experience. The survivors learn anyway. By mid-1968, surviving Viet Cong commanders reassess tactical assumptions. The statistics tell brutal story. American aircraft losses to ground fire remain remarkably low. Despite thousands of daily sorties, despite proliferating VC and NVA anti-aircraft weapons, loss rates stay consistently under 1%. The aircraft fly too fast, too high, maneuver too unpredictably for rifle and machine gun fire to achieve reliable hits. Even 12.7 meters anti-aircraft guns struggle against jets screaming past at 400 knots. But VC casualties from airstrikes climb steadily throughout 1967 and 1968. Accurate figures prove impossible to establish. The Viet Cong don't publish casualty statistics. Body counts from bombed positions are inherently unreliable. Bodies destroyed, dispersed, buried immediately, or simply uncounted. But operational reports show VC units repeatedly mauled by airstrikes after engaging American forces. The 271st Regiment, Senior Colonel Tam's unit, loses approximately 40% of effective strength between January and June 1968. After-action reports attribute majority of casualties to airstrikes rather than ground combat. Individual battles illustrate broader pattern. February 1968, Khe Sanh region, Marine combat base surrounded by 2 NVA divisions. Operation Niagara delivers over 100,000 tons of ordnance via tactical air support. NVA forces never mount serious ground assault. Marine commanders attribute successful defense entirely to air support suppressing enemy formations before they can mass for attack. March 1968, Ashau Valley, NVA forces concentrate for major offensive. Airstrikes disrupt unit formations, destroy supply caches, prevent coordinated attacks. Ground offensive collapses before fully developing. April 1968, approaches to Saigon. VC battalion positions along Route 1 to ambush supply convoy. FAC spots ambush before sprung. Calls airstrike. F-4 Phantoms deliver cluster bombs and napalm. 43 VC killed. American casualties 0. The mathematics become undeniable. VC and NVA forces can survive American air power. But they cannot accomplish offensive objectives against American units with functioning air support. The Viet Cong adapt tactics accordingly. They stop using radio intercepts to plan ambushes near American units. Response is too fast. Intercept intelligence reveals unit locations but doesn't provide time to exploit before air support arrives. Radio intelligence shifts to strategic rather than tactical focus. They avoid attacking during daylight unless absolutely necessary. Night operations become standard. American jets are significantly less effective after dark. FAC aircraft struggle identifying targets in darkness. Strike aircraft cannot see targets without flares. Flare-dropping C-47s are vulnerable to ground fire and easily heard approaching. They adopt hugging the belt tactics, fighting extremely close to American positions inside minimum safe distance for airstrikes. If VC fighters remain 50 meters from American troops, napalm and bombs risk friendly casualties. Americans restrict air support in close quarters. These adaptations work, somewhat, but they're fundamentally defensive, reactive, survival-focused rather than victory-oriented. The initiative passes to Americans. VC forces can survive, but they struggle achieving offensive success against any American unit with radio communications and available air support. The mathematics are brutal and simple. VC in prepared positions versus American infantry. Potentially even fight. Numerical advantage might favor VC. VC in prepared positions versus American infantry with air support. Massacre. The equation allows only two solutions. Withdraw before air arrives or die. June 1969. War Zone D, 30 kilometers northeast of Saigon. Night operation. Tu, the VC squad leader from opening scene, remains alive, barely. 2 years after that ambush in Binh Duong province. He survived the napalm strike. 11 men in his squad did not. He learned from experience. Tonight his squad moves through jungle in complete darkness. No lights, no radios, too easy for Americans to direction-find transmissions. Hand signals and whispers only. They're approaching ARVN firebase, South Vietnamese troops, not Americans. Critical distinction, Americans have air support day and night, immediate response, 4 to 7 minutes typical. Impossible to plan operations, requiring more than 3 minutes of contact time. RVN units, less reliable air support, less responsive coordination. Requests go through Vietnamese chains of command. Might take 30-40 minutes for aircraft to arrive. Enough time to breach perimeter, destroy critical positions, withdraw to jungle. That's the calculation now. Not whether air support will come, it always comes eventually. Question is, how fast? Against American units with embedded FACs and pre-positioned aircraft? 4 to 7 minutes. Unworkable. Cannot plan operations requiring more than 3 minutes of sustained contact. Against ARVN units relying on Air Force support through Vietnamese command channels? 15 to 25 minutes. Workable. Barely. Tu's 9 remaining fighters reach perimeter wire. Wire cutters work silently. No talking, no noise. Move inside defensive perimeter. Satchel charges ready. Canvas bags packed with explosives and scrap metal. Designed to destroy bunkers, artillery pieces, command posts. Attack begins 2:18 a.m. Mortars launch from jungle, 60mm rounds impacting inside firebase. VC fighters rush forward through cut wire. Satchel charges fly through bunker apertures, explosions ripple across firebase. ARVN troops return fire, M16s, M60 machine guns frantic and disorganized. Tu throws satchel charge at communications bunker. The explosion shreds sandbags, collapses roof structure. Radio antennas topple. Good. Destroy communications, delay air support calls. At 2:23 a.m., 5 minutes after attack begins, Tu hears sound that stops his blood. Jet engines. An AC-47 gunship, Americans call it Spooky, Vietnamese call it Dragon, arrives overhead. The ARVN firebase called for air support the instant attack started. The AC-47 was already airborne on night interdiction mission, already nearby, diverted immediately. Side-mounted miniguns open fire. Every fifth round is tracer. The tracers appear as solid streams of red light pouring from aircraft. Not individual bullets, streams. Rivers of fire. 6,000 rounds per minute, 100 rounds per second. The sound is like ripping canvas. Loud, continuous, overwhelming, terrifying. The jungle around firebase lights up red. Trees explode under minigun fire, earth fountains. Tu's men scatter. Some are hit, bodies torn apart by multiple 7.62mm rounds impacting simultaneously. Some escape into darkness. Tu runs, crashes through jungle without looking back, without checking casualties. He reaches rally point 2 kilometers distant, counts survivors. 6 men, 3 killed in attack, 2 wounded carried by comrades. Mission accomplished nothing. No objectives achieved. ARVN perimeter intact. Artillery pieces undamaged. American air support arrived 5 minutes after attack commenced. 5 minutes. As Tu moves through darkness toward base camp, he thinks about Americans and their radios. The bulky PRC-25s strapped to soldiers' backs. The obvious antennas, the complete dependence on Köln technology. 2 years ago, VC fighters mocked those things, called Americans soft, dependent, unable to function without machines, laughed at soldiers who carried 20-pound radios into combat. Nobody laughs anymore. The radios work, the system works, and soldiers carrying those radios summon firepower from sky faster than VC can achieve any tactical objective. Tu and surviving fighters will continue fighting. Will continue adapting tactics. But they're not winning. They're surviving, enduring, waiting, and increasingly barely managing that. The Americans and their radios have transformed the war in ways VC commanders never anticipated. The system isn't perfect. Nothing in war ever is. RTOs die. Over 500 radio operators killed in action throughout the war. The antenna marks them. The enemy targets them specifically. Being RTO is one of the most dangerous jobs in Vietnam. Some units rotate the radio daily. Different soldier carries it each patrol, spreads the risk. Other units assign dedicated RTOs who carry it throughout their tours. The dedicated RTOs rarely survive full tours unscathed. The PRC-25s fail in rain, in humidity, in jungle conditions. Batteries die at critical moments. Frequencies get jammed by terrain, by weather, sometimes by enemy action. The jungle limits range. Radio signals that travel 5 miles across open ground barely reach 2 miles through triple canopy jungle. Sometimes FAC cannot arrive quickly enough. Sometimes weather grounds aircraft. Sometimes strike aircraft hit wrong targets. Coordinates miscommunicated, smoke drifts, bomb loads release off target. Friendly fire happens. Close air support missions carry inherent risks. When aircraft deliver ordnance hundreds of meters from friendly positions, sometimes closer on danger-close missions, miscalculations kill American troops. Statistics on friendly fire casualties remain classified, but the deaths occur. Every soldier knows someone killed by American bombs or artillery meant for enemy. And there's psychological cost that never appears in statistics. Martinez, RTO from opening scene, completes his tour, returns home to El Paso in early 1968, can't shake memories, weight of radio on his back, feeling of being targeted, responsibility of calling fire that kills dozens of men in seconds. He carried death in backpack radio, spoke words into handset that summoned napalm and high explosives. Men died because of coordinates he read from map. The system works, but the system demands human cost. RTOs, FACs, strike pilots, they all carry psychological weight of what air support means. FACs watch through binoculars as napalm burns men alive. Pilots see bodies scattered across strike zones. RTOs hear screaming over radios, know they're calling death down on other human beings. It's necessary. It's effective. It saves American lives. It still costs. But tactically, strategically, the system works often enough to fundamentally change battlefield calculations across South Vietnam. The Viet Cong learn through brutal experience. American units with functioning radios are exponentially more dangerous than their numbers suggest. The radio operator calls death from sky, calls it quickly, calls it accurately. Kill him quickly, maybe achieve objective before jets arrive. Miss him or fail to kill him fast enough, and aircraft arrive in minutes. The mathematics remain clear and unforgiving. The transformation of close air support in Vietnam rarely appears in popular memory of the war. The narrative focuses elsewhere: protests, helicopters, guerrilla warfare, political controversy, strategic failures. The prevailing image of Vietnam is jungles and ambushes and patient guerrillas defeating American technological superiority through determination and will. But that image misses critical tactical realities. By 1968, American ground units with functioning communications had access to air support faster than any military force in human history. The compressed timeline, minutes from contact to bombs on target, represented revolutionary warfare, something genuinely new. It required massive infrastructure investment. Hundreds of FAC aircraft operating continuously, thousands of strike aircraft, sophisticated radio networks, extensive training programs, refined doctrine, coordination between services that historically competed rather than cooperated. And it worked tactically. Statistics demonstrate effectiveness conclusively. American units with available air support consistently dominated tactical engagements. The VC and NVA adapted tactics, but adaptation meant avoiding contact rather than achieving victory. Meant surviving rather than winning. The system's limitations were strategic and political, not tactical. Air power couldn't win hearts and minds, couldn't identify enemies who appeared identical to civilians, couldn't solve political problems with military tools, couldn't address fundamental questions about why America was fighting in Vietnam at all. But tactically, the system achieved its purpose. American infantry with radios and available air support were extraordinarily difficult to defeat in direct combat. The legacy persists in modern warfare. Current close air support doctrine traces directly to Vietnam innovations. Integration of ground controllers and strike aircraft. Emphasis on rapid response. Technologies have evolved. Data links replace voice radio. Precision-guided munitions replace unguided bombs. Drones supplement manned aircraft. But fundamental concept remains unchanged. Ground forces in contact call for air support. Aircraft arrive quickly. Controllers mark targets. Strike aircraft deliver ordnance precisely. The Viet Cong, who underestimated American air support capabilities in 1966 and 1967, learned harsh lessons through direct experience. They adapted, changed tactics, fought differently, survived, but they never solved the fundamental problem. When American troops made contact and called for air support, death arrived in minutes. For Thieu, if he survived the war and many didn't, the memory would remain visceral decades later. The sound of jet engines, the sight of napalm spreading across jungle, the speed at which technology transformed battlefield from prepared ambush to killing ground. 2 years earlier, he and other VC fighters mocked Americans and their bulky radios, their dependence on machines, their technological crutches that made them soft, predictable, vulnerable. They stopped mocking after experiencing the first airstrike, the ones who survived anyway. The radio wasn't a weakness, it was a weapon, the most effective weapon on the battlefield. And the antenna waving above the elephant grass wasn't just a target marker. It was a promise. Call for help, and help arrives. Fast. The Viet Cong learned that lesson at terrible cost. Some lessons can only be learned through experience. And in war, experience is measured in bodies.